everybody, welcome back to the series. It's your girl Chrissy Pips. In today's video, we're going to answer the question, what is an auditory learner? And I'm also going to give you some auditory learning style tips. Now listen, as always, we're going to keep these intros short. I hope you guys are here and ready for my auditory people. Listen to the sound of my voice. But if you're here, you're interested. So let's get into it. What is an auditory learner? Well, auditory learners tend to learn better when the subject matter is reinforced by sound. So that means when information is heard or spoken. Auditory learners would much rather listen to a podcast or audiobook or a lecture or participate in a group discussion rather than to read a book or write notes. Okay? They often use their own voice to reinforce new concepts and ideas. They're prone to sorting out their ideas after speaking rather than thinking ideas through beforehand. Since to them, saying things out loud helps them understand the concepts. They can benefit from repeating the lesson back, having recordings of lectures or classes. They can benefit from group activities that require classmates to maybe explain ideas, just to name a few things. Also, they aren't afraid to speak up in class and are great at verbal explanations of things. Yup. You will often find auditory learners participating in group discussions or asking teachers questions in order to try to get an understanding of the material. Just note that they may be slower at reading and may often repeat things to a teacher or repeat things that a teacher tells them just to make sure that they have that clear understanding. Okay? When auditory learners are studying, they often need to read the written materials out loud in order to fully understand their meaning. Now, auditory learners need to listen, speak, and interact in order to learn. So let's go over some strengths of auditory learners. Auditory learners are good at being able to easily recall spoken information. They have good speaking skills, having strong listening skills as well. They're good at being able to excel at oral exams. They can present things to people and it comes naturally to them. They get the most benefit from reading out loud. Yep. They are very good at storytelling. They work best in groups or conversational settings where they can have that verbal interaction. They're talented at explaining ideas verbally very well. They easily pick up on people's tone of voice and subtle voice cues. Yep. They're really good at remembering songs too. Now, before we get into auditory learner strategies, let me know in the comments below if you or your child is an auditory learner, and let me know some of your best practices maybe. Okay? And it's just based on the strengths that you've heard so far. I'm excited to find out what categories my viewers fall into, so please let me know in the comments. Now, also, if some or all of these strengths don't quite sound right, you might have one of these other learning preferences, so feel free to head back over to the back to school playlist to find out what's right for you. Finding your learning style is a critical step in making learning easier, more accessible, and more effective for you and your child on your learning journeys. Okay, moving right along, let's get into some of the tips for our auditory learners. Okay, now tip number one is going to be to read out loud. While this strategy may not be appropriate in all environments, reading out loud may be beneficial when trying to retain information that you're reading. Number two is going to be record yourself and everything that you come across for educational purposes as much as you can. I use this little recorder like right here when I can't use my phone. So if I can't record myself on Zoom or something like that, I'll record it. I found it on Amazon. If you have already taken notes from class, maybe read your notes into your cell phone and then listen to them again later. If you are studying and you need to read a textbook, Read the textbook while you're recording yourself and then listen to it again later. This can be very, very helpful for you as you try to learn and pick up on the new material. The next tip is going to be talk through problems. When problems or situations that need to be solved are presented to you, talk through these scenarios. It's definitely going to help you. So talking through scenarios is the best way for an auditory learner to digest information and come up with a solution. So you could talk through a problem with a teacher, a counselor, a parent, or even speak with a trusted friend or mentor about the situation. That can be very helpful for you. Next, participate in group discussions. Auditory learners often benefit greatly from group discussions, and it's because regularly scheduling in-person meetings and discussions with your teachers is a good strategy because it gives you the ability to have that Q&A, that question and answer. So if you have anything that you maybe missed or don't understand, you can get clarity. Okay? Yeah. And now if you're doing like a group assignment, ask the group too. You can meet on Zoom, or you can meet inside of like Clubhouse, an app like Clubhouse or something like that, and just make it a private meeting. You can find plenty of ways with today's technology to meet in groups and things like that. It's very beneficial, so try it out. The next tip is going to be ask for verbal directions and read your assignments out loud. Auditory learners typically understand directions best when they are spoken. If you are ever in a situation where an assignment is given via email, it would be in your best interest to ask your teacher to meet with you in person on Zoom or over the phone to verbally go over what's expected for that assignment. Okay? Or if it's a group assignment, ask the group to meet like online or in person to discuss what's needed from you so that you can get it done. This can ensure that you fully understand your duties and help prevent any confusion or challenges that come from misinterpretations or misunderstandings in communication. Next, repeat facts out loud with your eyes closed. Blanking out or like clearing out your other senses helps you focus and memorize information. I personally think this is your superpower. I do think that, okay? You don't have or get sensory overload because you're only focusing on what you hear. So try to repeat facts using the same words repeatedly, because that's going to help you and that's going to be beneficial as well. The next tip is going to be study with a partner or talk things out and hear feedback. The auditory learners actually excel at learning with other people who can verbalize information to help them formulate, understand, and move forward with topics. Okay, the next tip is going to be consider experimenting with background music when you're studying. Background noise or soft playing music can help auditory learners concentrate more easily and be more productive. Auditory learners get distracted by background noise, so creating a consistent sound in the background helps to remove any distractions. Just make sure that the music is not too loud, because that can also become a distraction. You can listen to music or white noise in the background while you're studying. I found that white noise or lo-fi music helps me quite a bit. But if you are doing music, just make sure that it's nothing with words, with lyrics. The links to the 2 YouTube channels that I use are going to be in the description box below, and it's going to be for white noise and for lo-fi music. Okay, the last tip for you is going to be to make your notes into songs. Do you like to sing? Do you make up songs anyway? When you're studying, make your notes into songs. You would be surprised by how easy it is for an auditory learner to remember a song, especially one that you create. Next, let's move on to the tips for parents working with auditory learners. Parents, if you are working with an auditory learner, here are some tips you can use to help them in school and communicate more efficiently with them, okay? Number 1, since these students generally find it hard to stay quiet for long periods of time, get your auditory learners involved in the lecture. Or if it's like a long educational video, try pausing and asking them to repeat some of the new concepts back to you. Asking questions and things like that and letting them answer is definitely going to be beneficial to them. Get the family involved in group discussions so your auditory learner can verbally process and properly take in and understand information that they're being presented with. It's definitely helpful. Next, remember that your auditory learner is not being rude if they don't respond quickly. The brain doesn't always process spoken words smoothly. So when your child doesn't respond right away or doesn't understand what you're saying, they're not doing it to be rude or defiant. Sometimes they simply didn't comprehend or understand what you said. Their brain is still processing it and it hasn't finished yet. So give them a little bit of time to let them process what you're saying, okay? Next, competing sounds and noises make understanding harder. So when talking to your child, your voice is competing with thousands of other noises. It could be the rush of like the air blowing from an air conditioner, right? Or footsteps coming down the hallway. It could be the kids playing in the background, right? So try not to start conversations or meaningful conversations or even homework study sessions for your auditory learner if there's a lot of like loud noise or just it's a chaotic environment. You want to try to make their study environment and even your conversation environment as less distracting as possible, okay? Next, your auditory learner responds better to positive feedback than negative. Think about that. They respond better to positive feedback than negative feedback or punishments. Work with your child and their teachers to put in place some positive support. That's going to help them. They kind of withdraw if you do it the other way around. Next is going to be encourage your child to visit their teachers after class to get clarification if needed. Tell them to try to use, like teachers usually have office hours, try to use that time to talk to them about the lessons for things that they may not understand. Because the purpose of me having you guys, if you haven't already done so, do it. The purpose of me having parents take the test so that they can learn their learning style with learning their students or their child's learning style is so that you know if you guys are compatible communicators. If you're not compatible communicators, you as the parent should be giving somebody else the ability to be an intermediary for you, okay? So if you are a kinesthetic communicator, you are hands-on and your child is auditory, maybe have them go to their teacher so their teacher can explain it, because you're going to explain it in a different way than what they're actually going to be able to understand, okay? The last tip for you parents is going to be encourage them to create or join study groups. Auditory learners do best when they hear other people talk to them and explain new information. If your child joins a study group or peer study group they can interact with on a regular basis, it's going to help them. However, as a parent, it's your job to make sure that, cross those T's and dot those I's. Check the information that they're learning and make sure that it's actually accurate. The more an auditory learner implements strategies specific to auditory learning in their daily lives, the more successful and productive they're going to be. Please make sure you watch the videos for both you and your kid, your baby, your child's primary and secondary learning styles, and then dive into the different study techniques. If you found this as your first video, it's extremely important that you and your child take the learning style quizzes. So head over to the first video in this series for all of the info that you need to get the best out of this playlist. Okay, I am a kinesthetic auditory learner who doesn't mind visual aids. So you can be in multiple categories, and that's awesome. That just means that you learn in multiple ways. So you're going to want some techniques so that you can kind of work out which ways work best for you. Now, don't forget, I dropped a few links and some helpful tools inside of the description box for you from this video. And here's the playlist over here. So if you found this one first, make sure you go over there and start that first one. But if you found value in this playlist, please consider sharing the video with a friend. If you have any suggestions for me, feel free to drop those in the comments and let me know. But I hope you're having an absolutely amazing morning, afternoon, or evening, wherever you are in the world. And I'll see you in the next video. Bye.